Hey everybody, it is time for another fall project of rebuilding something old and bringing it back to life and putting it back to use. And I found this one, a guy was happy enough to release and give to me for a fair price. This is I believe that, these are so old that it's kind of hard to get information on 'em, but this is about a 1955 Sears what's called a David Bradly series, and it's a 18-inch saw, and it uses from what I'm learning and what I'm finding out, the engine in these is called a AH47 that was made by Tecumseh Power Products, and somewhere in 1947, 1955, these engines, this AH47 two-stroke, they put them in lots of stuff, not just chainsaws, but go-karts, all kinds of tillers and power equipment, things like that. But they put them in these. And so this model is a 647D, and there's also a 647G, I found out. And they also made this saw with two different ways to run that chain, and one is a direct drive, and the other one is a gear drive. And the reason they used a gear drive is these early two-strokes didn't have a whole lot of bottom-end power. At least that's what I've read, and so they use gears to compensate for that. And so a 647G has the gear drive on it, which is going to be a little clunky thing that goes here. But I've looked inside here, and I can see it's your typical chain and sprocket that we're used to. So I'm assuming that the 640D, the D means direct drive and the G is a gear drive. But from what I've heard is these things don't rev up very high. They run at a fairly low RPM, but they produce a lot of power. And so they say they're really fun saws to use. So I'm really excited about this one. I love the profile of the blade. This is the bar. This is an 18-inch bar, and on these older saws, they had a more pronounced kind of girth to them, a snout on them, sort of like this one. If you remember this one that I did, unlike the other ones where they have thinner bars. It's actually more efficient to have a thinner bar when you're cutting wood like that. But I really like the looks of these older ones, and this bar is in immaculate shape. The chain, probably going to have to discard that. It's a little rusted, and it also looks like it's been cut back quite a bit. I can tell by the cutters here, they're trimmed back quite a bit, so I'll be replacing that. But that's par for the course for that. What else did we do? So I opened up the gas tank here and was just kind of looking inside that. And if you're going to work on these, make sure you get a good set of hemostats, because what you can do is, I'm going to try to do this here, but I don't know if this is going to work. But you can reach down inside here and grab. Well, I can't do it with one hand on the camera, but you can grab the hose and the filter in there and inspect that and make sure all that's good. Sometimes the oil also has a filter and a hose in that. This one's the old plunger style, so the way that you run these is you have to, remember to push this plunger. Got a metal hose that comes all the way out, to the front here, and that's where your chain oil goes. So it's not an automatic oiler. You got to push it. That's normal. So anyway, that's just kind of a rundown of what this thing is. Might be a little hard to get parts for. I've already started looking. Oh, and the carburetor down here, I believe that might be a Tillotson carburetor, which was the same thing, or a similar carburetor that was used on that one, some of the older ones. If it's not, the other option was a Power Products carburetor. And they say what I read, I think that the Tillotson is very hard to get rebuild kits for, but a Power Products might be a little easier. So not really sure what we're going to get into there, but that's kind of a rundown of what's going on here. So what I'm going to do, instead of making a really long video like I usually do, and you guys all have attention deficit disorders, and you watch my videos for about 30 seconds and then you bolt on me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a series on this, and I'm going to go through these in a couple of different sections so you can tune into what you want. But the next one here is going to be, I'm going to start this up, and just so you know, when you buy an old chainsaw like this and you just want to know where it's at, go ahead and pull on the starter here. And I did this on this one. You can't really see it here because I'm doing it with one hand. And when it catches, you can feel the compression. And if it catches and you can feel it clunk, 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 pulling kind of hard and giving resistance on you, that's a good sign. That means that the piston in there and the rings and the cylinders in good shape, and it hasn't been leaned out and ruined and somebody's trying to get rid of it because it never ran. This one has really strong resistance, good compression, so I feel pretty good that I'm not going to have to do too much with that. I might put rings in it. I might just leave it alone if it's got good enough compression. But other than that, if you're going to start these things, don't grab one of these old saws and try to put gas in them and start them right up. You got to look it over. And like I said, this chain is rusted. You know, I would not want to run this saw and have it, you know, pull that chain across the bar. That's going to cause damage, things like that. So what I am going to do just for fun is I'm going to take the bar and chain off. I want to put some gas in it. Don't have to put oil in it because I'm going to have the bar and chain off, so there's no need to do that. But I just want to see if the engine will fire up and run at all, so I know what I'm working with. I have already taken the spark plug out, and using a spark plug tester, I've already confirmed that I'm getting spark. And you know the rule with any kind of internal combustion engine, you got to have three things. You got to have compression, you got to have spark, and you got to have fuel. So we know we got two of those things. So I'm going to put a little gas in the spark hole and see if she'll kick over, and maybe try to get her to run for a few seconds. But that's it. I'm not going to do much more than that because I don't want to do any damage to it. I'm just curious where it's at right now, but we are going to take this whole thing apart, and we might repaint it here. You know, we might just leave it like that. A lot of people, you know, really like the worn look to it, like it's really been used, and I like that too. So we'll see, but stay tuned, and we'll catch you on the next video in this series.